Hey, my friends. I'm back. So, yesterday I posted on my group um, a service that I found that collects, and it's a sort of marketplace for APIs. And this raised quite a lot of interesting and many comments and interactions, but some didn't know exactly how to use APIs and asked for help. And since I'm just a regular guy that I'm not a programmer and I have been using this for a while, I decided to record this so maybe I can help you take advantage of these APIs. So consider this the dummy guide or the simple guide for APIs. And remember, I'm not a technical guy. I'll probably say something foolish here, but this works and you can take advantage of it. So, from the beginning, an API has like a ton of quite intricate explanations around it and what it is. But in the end, what you got to remember is that it's a way to connect applications to talk to each other. So, this is the key thing. It's very used nowadays in programming. Most of the developers that I know use APIs here and there, and it's a simple way to connect two things. This is what you have to remember. And you probably um, thought of webhooks because they are like similar things. But the easy way I found to explain the difference between them is that webhooks tends to be, or at least the ones I use it, um, they move in a single direction. So, for example, if I use a webhook on Spread Simple, what I'm telling is Spread Simple, whatever this thing happens, trigger this webhook, and this webhook will lead to Pabbly, to EasyFlow, to Integrately, or to other service. So this is a one way. So on one side we have something triggering the webhook, and on the other side I have another thing getting this information and the trigger and the data that is transferred to it. And on APIs, this happens in both ways. So the simple way to explain this is that you can take APIs, for example, like a robot, and you get to it and you say, see, my name is Felipe. I have this secret code, and I want you to bring me back something. And this something can be a service, or can be data, or can be changing something on another service. So you could use it to, for example, create a group within a specific application. So it's more elaborate, and it's more flexible also because you have this two-way of communication using APIs. And the key thing that you always see around APIs is you do puts, you do gets, you do posts, if it's a REST API. And I'm not really sure what all these things means, but most of the times it's clearly described on their documentation, and documentation is a word that you see every time you talk about APIs, because you got to find this reference of what you're going to ask for the API. And most of the times you use put. Sometimes it will state that you should use a get or post. Just follow the documentation. This is the key here, and it's pretty simple. You see, we'll do a live example here. And the last thing before we jump into a live usage of APIs is that they're normally consists of three key parts of it. The endpoint, which is normally URL, and it's presented with a question mark in the end, sometimes without it. A token, and this is a real token. You see, we'll use it, and then I'll delete it because I don't want like clever guys exploiting my token, but it's a secret. It's a hash, and this is the way that the service that you're calling knows, knowing that you are someone authorized to use it. And parameters, there are lots of different parameters, and they come from the documentation. You got to check them because this is sort of configuration of the things that you get or you do. All right. So without further ado, let's check a real example. Okay. So I'm using one simple API here because I like the service and it works fairly well. But it's simply describe it, and you'll be able to understand this. So the first one that I want to try is web page information. So this is an API that once you tell what URL you're trying to get information about, it will read the OG meta and bring it back to you in a structured way. And to use that, I'll need to have a token for my one simple API. And this is the token. And I'll use Pabbly to run this. And later I'll show you a few examples of how to do it without Pabbly, for example. But okay, so heading back to the web page information and getting meta tags and Twitter card and Open Graph information from a site. Here they have information like common use cases, prerequisites, and all this kind of stuff. And this address is the endpoint. So this is the first thing we got to note. And I'll jump into Pabbly here. I just set the schedule as a trigger, but we'll add an API call here. And this is an API by Pabbly. I'll set this to post. This is uh, my standard. And then I'll take that endpoint, which is this address, and I'll paste it here. Okay. So leave it the payload as JSON. Don't change these things. You don't need authentication here. What you want to add is the parameters, because you see that to call this API, I'll need to put a few parameters, and there are like examples here. But this is a simple example of a call. So here is the endpoint, and then there are three parameters: token, output, and the URL. So I'll transpose it to it. So token, output, and URL. So the token, we already know it's my code, and I'll have to put it here. This is the token. The output, we gotta check here, and I want it to get back to me as a JSON. So I'm copying it here, and I'll put JSON here. And the URL is the site that I want to grab information. And for this, let's take, for example, the spread simple site. So here it is. Oh, sorry, that's probably, no, I gotta paste it here. And then I'll run a test and we'll see how this works. So when I click run, this will ping one simple API server, will tell this guy that has this token wants to get information about a spread simple site, the page information, and he wants it to be delivered back in a JSON structure. And let's see if it works. And voila! Here we have the information gathered from a spread simple site. So sometimes Pabbly messes up with like different characters. But see, this is the general description, and this is the OG meta tag coming from one symbol or from spread symbol. It's not that good, to tell the truth. Let's try another URL. So for example, let's get the vbout page of AppSumo. and I'll just grab it, this part. I don't want the query thing, and let's paste it here as the URL, and let's run a test on this. And there we have it. We have a general title and a general description. And here we have the OG title, OG URL, OG image. So for example, if I check this image here, this is the preview of VBout on AppSumo. And just so you understand, if I check here, for example, for Amelia, this will be the OG of it. So let's run Amelia here. And there we go. So now you got it. You can use a variable, for example, in this value, and then you get information from a series of sites. So you could, for example, put the list of URLs here and grab it from Google Sheets, and then put an iterator on Pabbly, and then like rolling the URLs that you want to capture and saving the meta tags from it and image URLs and all this kind of stuff on another Google Sheet. So this is one particular usage. But let's say that I don't want to gather information about a page. I want to capture the whole page. I want to generate a PNG of the page. And this is another thing that One Simple API allows us. And for example, I could use this API, which is screenshots. So this is the endpoint, One Simple API /API/ screenshots. And I'll just have to change it here. So I'll put screenshot here, and then I'll check what are the variables that I should use. So I have like different things for it. So for example, I could set tablet landscape. So I should have screen and then set the value to tablet landscape. Let's do it. So I'll add another parameter here, and I'll say screen and tablet landscape. And let's just check what should be the outputs here. So I can force it, this is another parameter, I can force it to reload every time, or I could use a cached value. I can force it to capture the full page. So let's do it. I'll ask for the full page. And here is full, and the value should be yes or no. And I want background, and the output, I want it to be delivered as a JSON also, and you'll see why. So let's run and see how this goes. It will take a while. And this is something that messes up with like workflows on Pabbly, because this is kind of slow API. This takes more than 15 seconds normally, and Pabbly does not allow it to wait that much. But hopefully this will work. If not, this is live. Oh, it didn't. So it took like more than 15 seconds. Let's try it again. Sometimes it does. I don't think this will work either. Oh, it did. So here's the width and the height and the full page and the URL. And let's check the URL so you can see what's the output of it. So boom, there we go. So I have a full capture of Amelia page from AppSumo. And I can scroll it down. I can It's pretty big, and it's all here. And this URL is under one simple API CDN, so I could use this directly on my site if I wanted, and I'm actually using sometimes. And this is the general way of like calling APIs on Pabbly, which is pretty simple. There's also another very, very, very interesting way of doing it directly on Google Sheets. You can use this import data function and then put the whole API call uh, in the formula. And the whole API call is pretty much the same as described here. So, for example, if I want to grab a JSON output directly on Excel, I could call it directly on I'm sorry, on Google Sheet. I could do it using this import JSON formula. So let's try it so you can see how this works. And I'll pick it here and head to Spread Simple site, and I'll throw in the formula here, and then I'll grab my token. So I'll paste it here, and my output will be JSON, and then I'll just get like native forms page and capture it here. So I'm replacing the latest part of it. And then let's review data. And there it is. The same values that you saw on Pabbly you're seeing here. I believe the dimensions are a bit different, but if I copy this and throw it on my web page, on my browser, there it is, a full capture of, oh, I didn't select full, but I could just say it here, just put another, and full equals yes. So let's run it again. This can take a bit, Oh, sorry, there's something wrong here. Let me try to change the order. Just a second. I'll put it here and just say full equals yes and URL. And let me check the documentation again just to see if it, yeah, it is. So this should work. Let's see. Oh, there it is. So let's open this and see. And here is the full capture of native form. Sometimes some elements doesn't load. So in this case was a video, and there are some abnormal spacing sometimes, but it works in general. And this is the important thing. So heading back to my little presentation, you should take note of this. I already recorded a video about this. I think this is a gem in Spread Simple page. It's right at the bottom. So if you move all the way down, you'll see there's this import JSON formula. It's very useful for Spread Simple. And what I want to say is, well, enjoy it. Thank you. If you don't know, I have this Facebook group called ltd.com. You should check it. It's very interesting. We are gathering a good group of guys there and ladies also, which is nice. And I hope to see you there. That's it. Bye bye. Enjoy.